Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer, and I got a review for you today. We're going to be talking about from Image Comics, the Cull issue number 2. It is written by Kelly Thompson, art and colors by Mattia de Iulis, and then letters by Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou. I know I mispronounced the artist and colorist names. It's no form of disrespect, just how I'm trying to read it. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. Does help. I am trying to, get as high as I can get. I don't know. So let's get into it. This one's basically, it was a little fishy on the first issue. But it's basically a group of individuals that are going into the unknown looking for another individual. I was kind of sketchy on the names in the first issue, and this one, it didn't help the way the conversation is. I'm not saying that the conversation is weird or anything, it's just kind of how conversations are. Normally when you're talking to your friends, you don't constantly say their names kind of thing. You know who you're talking to. So it can get a little bit confusing. But we have Jake, and Jake went into this what looks like a portal, and then we have his sister, which is Cleo, and then we have Cleo's 4 friends that are going with her. So altogether 5 friends that are going into this portal. And that's basically where we start out. We start out right where the last issue started out. And I'm going to try and remember if I can remember them right. We got Lux, we got Katie, we got Will, and we got Wade, and the one we're missing right now is Cleo, I think. So basically they're kind of debating on whether they're going to go into what looks like a portal. We haven't really gone into that, and there's speculation as the book goes forward. But that's basically what's going on. Like, hey, do we go through this? I mean, it's kind of the unknown. What if something bad happens, kind of thing. And what ultimately comes down to their decision is, hey, look, we have a friend that's in trouble. She's been going through the worst thing in her life, losing her brother. So if this can help her, if we do find her brother, or at least, can find, substance as far as an answer into what happened to him, then it'll help our friend. So they ultimately decide to go through. And they do meet up with Chloe. Chloe's like, oh my god, y'all came through, kind of thing. There's discussion because when they first came to this, it was on a beach, and they went through a rock that was in a cave, and so the portal was in the cave. So they, told their parents that they were going to film this short film for school or something like that. So there's a debate whether they're still going to do the movie. At this time, that they're not going to do the movie, but they are going to film, because it's how dumb would you be to, come across a place like this and not at least, document your findings, kind of thing. And that's kind of, their thinking, kind of thing. They're just going through this looking, for Will, or I'm sorry, Jake, and that's kind of, where it is. And so pretty much most of this book is that conversation that I was telling you about. There is some moments where they do some, investigation. She steps in the water, and they were afraid she might burst into flames or melt or something like that, but nothing out of the ordinary has happened so far. They do pull out like compasses and watches and cell phones and stuff like that. The electronic stuff seems to work. You can see the camera stuff is working, but the compass is just, there's no magnetic pull here. It's just spinning in circles, or there's too many, magnetic pulls or something. At this point in the book, there is something kind of cool, because Chloe, she ends up like picking up some flesh-looking material that's in the water. If you can see it right here, and it just looks like a piece of flesh, kind of thing. She eventually puts it back down in the water, and as soon as she puts it back down in the water, it kind of grows legs and all of a sudden has a face. They all do notice this, and it's something that they kind of keep in the back of their mind. Eventually they do manage to wade through the water that's there. There's some conversation about like what would have happened to Jake if he would have crossed the same path, him being a lot smaller and his sister stating that he was always a good swimmer, that kind of thing. He would have went to where he thought people were. Eventually they do come across land, and this is where it gets a little more interesting, because they don't really have a plan. They don't really have any clues on where Jake went or anything. So basically at this point they're like, hey, if you see any kind of sentient life kind of thing. And as sure as they say that, this little guy pops up. He kind of looks like a red panda kind of thing. They do realize that he's sentient. I think it's Cleo, but she ends up taking out this like gold band and she ends up throwing it to him. And he does pick up the band. There is something curious as well, but you'll see there's these little like fairies or sprites that is around this guy. We don't ever get a name. They just, he looks like a red panda, but he's blue kind of thing. He does pick up this band and he ends up walking away, but as he walks away, he keeps looking back at them. So they take it as a sign like, maybe he's going to lead us somewhere or something like that. So they take it upon themselves to follow him. So eventually they get to a clearing and they all have to pee. They do kind of a smart thing but kind of a dumb thing. They do plan to stay together and while they're going out to this pee break or whatever. But they do eventually get separated, and we kind of get, I wouldn't say more information, but we see a little more, like right here. I think this is Katie, and she ends up touching this tree, and it lights up from her handprint. We get a little more about, Chloe, and she's not handling her missing brother. She's been having suicidal tendencies as far as she's cutting herself, and her best friend kind of, comes across her going to the bathroom and sees, some of the fresh cuts kind of thing. We do see an embracing moment between the two, like we find out they're girlfriends or something like that. They cut over to Cleo and no, this is Lux and Will, and they kind of have a romantic moment. I don't think they're together, but at this time they're like, hey, this is the end of the world stuff. I don't want to die as a virgin. So they end up using their pee break to, get busy, and we do see that somebody is recording them. I tried to go back and see if we could find out who had the camera last, but the last person they show having the camera is Will. So of course he's not doing the recording unless he set the camera down, but it doesn't look like that. The last couple pages we jump over and we got Cleo, and Cleo's kind of investigating her own. She does put her hand down on the ground and sees some light coming down from the ground. As soon as she looks up from doing that, she sees a bright light, and it looks like our panda friend has evolved, changed, morphed, I don't know what you call it. We can tell it's him because he's got the gold band, but when she looks up, she says, oh God. And, we got the panda guy being like, what is God? And that's where this issue leaves off. There is a cover gallery at the back of the book in case you're interested on what the other, covers for the issue were. And I think at the very last page we do get a cover splash of what the next, issue will entail, but no information, nothing like that. But that is my review on this book. It's fantastic. I mean, the art alone is worth it. It is amazing. I mean, it's the same guy who did the cover. I think it's a guy, and I'm sorry if it's a girl. But the art is amazing, but the setup story, we still got that adventure stuff. It is starting to kind of closer form, but I love the investigation part of the place where they're in. There was conversation about what it is, but at this part it's kind of hearsay, but they do come up with the idea that they're in a transitional place. Not exactly a different Earth, not exactly like a different planet, but they believe they're in between worlds. They recognize, landmarks that should be in their world, but new ones at the same time. But that's my review. Let me know down below what you're thinking. That's all I got for you.